Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Monte Wolf Show. I am not Monty, still dGon. Sorry, comments. That was one of the best comments that was not actionable feedback I could take. He's still Wolf, though. Wearing a hat, looking good. How you doing, man?
I'm good. We had a crazy week of LCK again. I would argue a little bit less crazy than week one, but like maybe a little bit more fun than week one. So week two is off to an interesting start or finish at this point because we're obviously the week is over. We're moving into our final week. I'm good. I think we have to address obviously right away the trucks in the room, dGon.
Yeah, there was definitely some wheelie weird things going on out there. I got to experience the trucking for the first time. So I rolled up to work.
Can't believe it's your first time.
Yeah, I know. That's like Max got mad that I was mad that I saw the trucks, and I was like, I see these trucks. They have the signs on. I pull out Papago, Google Translate, and they're like, Guma bleeds red and black, and now he's sitting on the bench. Well, no, the other one, there were two trucks, and they had rotated signs, and the guys in there just smoking their cigarettes. The other one said something like, I came to support the team, but I was forced to watch Gumayusi's first name, Gumayusi, sitting on the bench. You made me see that. And I was like, what? It's so childish. It just makes me so mad that this is where, from the West, you see this truck and you're thinking, wow, this must be a lot of people that paid for this and blah, blah, blah. And you realize it's just a tiny subsection of the fan group that have money and then are so disconnected from reality and are willing to do that. There's no good that comes from sending a truck. It's like throwing a tantrum with your money and then making everyone else see your tantrum and then staining the fan group. Like, that's what that is. And it is disgusting behavior, like straight disgusting behavior. It was crazy, man.
So my favorite truck. So hopefully we can get these shown for you guys or like link them somewhere. But my favorite truck was the first one that you mentioned, and I had this posted. Someone posted it in my Discord. It was on Twitter before I went to the arena, so I had the pleasure of seeing them before I actually went in real life. And this one literally says, red and black blood flows through a player who's sitting on the bench, like basically, and like I think that's true, right? Like Gumayusi is like, that statement is not false, right? Like, there's a player who bleeds black and red, right? Red and black, T1 colors, sitting on the bench, right? Like, it's a true statement. Okay, got it. Guma's won multiple world championships with this roster. Okay, got it. He loves his T1 fans. Got it. Accurate. Like, somebody bought tickets to watch Gumayusi specifically. They made fan signs for him, whatever. T1 didn't make an announcement. You came to the arena. You're upset. Okay, I get it. That's fine. That part is all fine. Like, T1 didn't make an announcement. That was one of the things that you and I and the talent group were concerned about, because there's a lot. I see a lot of comments on the internet too, like, oh, they can't announce it because it's a strategy. No, that's not accurate. So here's the thing.
It's not accurate because the teams,
The day before, teams have to submit rosters so that the teams playing the next day have enough time to know, like, okay, is there a specific change up that might affect how we've planned to play the game? So the teams always know the day before, and sometimes multiple days before, but usually at least a day before, the night before, what the rosters are. So we knew about the Smash move the day before, but we were told, well, T1 will make us an announcement. It's a pretty big deal, so obviously, like, keep it under wraps, which is appropriate, right? Like, that's not something that's up to me or up to anyone in our talent group to announce, right? And we were told, like, okay, they're going to probably be announcing tomorrow afternoon, so, like, wait until you hear anything officially before you discuss this. And this is always really important to us as casters because we want to talk about really exciting roster moves and what's happening. And if there's a a move that is announced first, then we can talk about it. So it gets exciting. Like we could do a pre-game tweet or something like that or whatever. Sometimes you're like looking like, all right, is it announced yet? Like before the player walks out, because we gotta like wait and see.
Yeah.
In this case, the announcement we were like, oh, it should be out now. Still waiting for it, and then it just never it wasn't announced as far as I can tell. They just walked him out there, and then everyone was like, what?
Yeah.
So I can understand there's a lot of fan confusion. I can understand there's a lot of fan disappointment, especially for those Gumayusi fans because a lot of people don't know this, a lot of people come to watch T1 games, but a lot of people come to watch Carrier. A lot of people come to watch Faker. A lot of people come to watch Owner, right? And so if you prepared something for him, you have this cool fan sign, and then he's not there, I can understand that could create some disappointment for sure. However, now that we've kind of put all this out, how it works and stuff, you're cheering for a sports team. Sports teams are going to make their decisions about who's playing on the roster. Because of this backlash, which is happening right now, T1 was imprisoned by their own fans, I feel, and decided not to make an announcement because they're worried about the backlash and what it means, and maybe that people would overreact. And so part of this backlash is why T1 didn't announce in the first place, let's be honest, because they don't want Guma to have all this added pressure. They don't want Smash to have all this added pressure because he's a rookie player. He's still incredibly young. And so I think people don't fully realize that, like, screaming and yelling out into the internet is like part of why T1 kept this under wraps and wasn't sure how to handle it. And I like ultimately too, like Smash played really well. We'll talk about that in a minute, but it's frustrating to see that while some of this criticism is valid, the way that it's being conveyed, the way that people are getting attacked, the way T1 is getting attacked, the way Guma is getting attacked, weirdly sometimes the way that Smash is getting attacked, it's just not. Don't be mean. Like, don't be crazy. Most of you aren't, I know, but some of you get a little aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, I was speaking with someone saying like, "Hey, look, you're from NA, and even in NA, they have toxic fans. That happens, and that just kind of shows the size of the T1 fan base and like LCK in general, which I agree." But the T1 fan base specifically, it's massive, and especially when it pulls Chinese fans as well. It's a global team. I'd say the difference is that if you just take the percentage of that fan, let's say you have like cool fans, normal fans, lame fans, kind of angry fans, and then crazy fans, that same percent of crazy fan in North America wouldn't do that. Like that's the point. Like, it doesn't matter if there's, like if we're going percentages, like 1,000 is like 1% of the T1 fan, or like 10 is 1% of the North American fan. Like, I don't know, like Team Liquid or something. They won't do that. Like, it's just not in their brain to do that. They understand, hey, by sending this truck, I'm not helping this thing that I love. I'm creating more chaos. And it just doesn't click. And one way that it also doesn't help is that Guma released like a statement, like he released like a statement or a thing, like a couple days
he made
ago.
A statement in like his
It's the
I guess
T1
it's like his like section of the T1 like VIP fan. This is my understanding. I could be inaccurate. This could be inaccurate, but I'm pretty sure it's like you have to pay a subscription to be able to see this message, kind of thing. And it almost looks like from the screenshot that was posted by one of Gumayusi's fans in Korean and then was translated by Taki Cardial. It almost looks like a WhatsApp chat message.
It does,
but
anyway, no wait, it looks like a WhatsApp chat message if you like subscribe to like weekly like
weekly Guma.
Not even like weekly Guma. It's almost like the in LA, girls would not girls, not just girls, but like people would subscribe to like, oh, the planets are aligned today,
Oh,
and
horoscope.
like horoscope astrology for that specific day. The moon's rotational pull is now alleviating the pressure for you and allowing you to achieve those goals you've always wanted to do. So here's what it is. Hi, my precious fans, my lifelong fans. You must have been shocked, thrown off, and sad after hearing the news. I felt the same way when I first heard about it, but this kind of thing can happen to and occur for anyone. So as I slowly looked back on my situation, I came to think of it as an opportunity to grow even further. It's a position I've worked hard in and protected for 3 years. So, although my absence might feel awkward, if you continue to believe in me and wait for me as you have done, I will come back with even cooler version of myself. Thank you as always. Like,
So that translation sounds kind of awkward
okay, yes.
because of some of the words that it's an accurate translation, by the way, but it's like a literal translation basically.
Okay.
But like some of the words he used in Korean just don't have like other better translations. It's really difficult to actually, unless you change the meaning, right? And then it's not like, then you're not really getting out his message necessarily. Like I'll come back with a cooler version of myself is basically like,
Yeah, I'll come back.
don't
strong.
worry. I'll basically he's like I'll be back and I'll be more awesome. You know, it's kind of a confident thing that he said. But it is very much a message that we've talked about a lot in our talent group, and a lot of people have felt this way. It felt almost like a bait. Like it almost felt like not a bait. That's not the right word. Like a riling up of fans. And you know, obviously this is a private message, is again, as far as I understand, if I'm correct about this. And then these messages always get screenshotted and then leaked anyways. And people were like, he's right and everyone else is wrong. But the ironic thing, and this is something Chronicler talked about, I talked about it when I was casting, because I was casting that day. It was like the first thing I said. This is how he got his career start. Is he got subbed in during the Worlds qualifier. He played behind Teddy, then ultimately surpassed Teddy. Like that's, and people back then were a little bit upset. Like most people weren't, but some people back then were a little bit upset. Like they took Teddy out. How could they do this? Blah, blah, blah. This time it feels like a much bigger reaction to Guma being subbed out than even Teddy being subbed out at the
Way
time.
bigger.
But Teddy didn't have like multiple world championships, right? And stuff like that. He has a very successful career, don't get me wrong, but he didn't have multiple world championships and et cetera, et cetera. He wasn't part of this like roster that's being pulled apart. So I can understand the T1 fans' perspective. Like, first we lost Zayas, now we're losing Guma. What's happening, you know? But anyway, that's how your boy Guma got started, by the way. It's a very similar situation. And I personally think that they will use both players. It's not going to be, initially at least, oh man, Smash did okay, Guma's out forever. Like, even when Guma replaced Teddy, there was a lot of back and forth there before ultimately Guma ended up being the main player on the roster. So there's going to be potentially a transition period. Smash, by the way, played well. Statistically, we had the stats after game 4. I didn't have them after game 5. I didn't update them. But when I looked into it in game 4, he had upped Guma's DPM by about 200 from like 650 to 850. And had a better KDA and a higher kill participation than Guma had when we were looking. Those are the stats that we pulled, which we didn't show, but we were thinking about showing. He also played Caitlyn in a winning matchup. He also played against Wei, who decided to all in into a Poppy and die, and he got a free kill.
Good.
So, like, here's the thing. Let's talk about gameplay a little bit, and we can talk more about drama later if we want to, but gameplay-wise, he was given some pretty significant leads. He played against some weaker teams, to be honest, and he excelled. Like, he took the opportunities he was given. He played well. In my opinion, would it have looked much different if Guma was in those games? I don't think so at all, to be honest, like, especially the Caitlyn game. However, he looks good. I hope they're brave enough to use him against GenG, because that's when we're really going to learn against a really tough opponent what he's made of. And I want to see a series where he's not gifted significant leads early, or he doesn't have a good matchup. Like, he lost the one game against KT, but that was a weird game in general. I want to see him tested more, because if we just play him against KT, which is such a up and down team, but also kind of a weaker team, in my opinion, in the grand scheme of the whole league that's upcoming, then we don't learn that much. We don't actually really know if he is potentially going to be a replacement. He hasn't played Zeri yet. I know it's a big discussion point, like, oh, he played all the champions that Guma doesn't necessarily play. We didn't play Zeri yet. I would love to see him really fully tested against GenG, because he looked good, but he didn't play, a game where he's like down 20, 30 CS against a really strong laner, or like the lane swap went badly. Like, how does he recover kind of situation?
Yeah. But that's my point. And just to finish, this is on the conflict between the fans. This is what the LCK Cup is for. You're supposed to try things out if someone is ready, if someone's available. If you start with the 6-man roster, like, bro, you're supposed to sub them in, because these stats don't count. That's why Faker's still sitting at 999 games with a 666 wins, which is kind of crazy.
420 KDA. It's like such a meme.
Like, that's what this is for. And yes, it is an opportunity to go to first stand, which is very exciting, the first time ever. But the stakes, unless you are the worst team, the stakes are so low. Everyone's going to play-ins or playoffs except one team, and that's not going to be T1 if they sub in Smash or Guma. Like, they're gonna be fine. Like, yeah. So that whole divide there is the frustrating part, and you can very much see it between the fan base. And when the stats are coming out and they're like, well, why aren't we seeing him on the champs that he plays? Or, they're the same player. Why wouldn't you just play Guma? It's like, that's the whole point. That's the whole
sports team ultimately. And I know that's hard for a lot of people to swallow. I think a lot of people feel, and like, again, I get it. If you brought some Guma stuff and you really wanted to see him, and then you can only like see him with your binoculars because he's sitting next to Coma in the coach's booth. Like, I get it, but ultimately you're coming to watch a sports game. And I think a lot of people look at T1 as like you're going to a BTS concert. You're like, I bought my tickets to watch Guma win, and I came and I showed up, and like, if like I see some of the times I see the fan reactions and stuff, and like what happens in any sort of like pause or technical issue, and they're like, they took it away. I came to watch T1 win and they lost. Whose fault is it? It can't be T1's. It can't be my favorite players, because I bought a ticket to watch this team perform. Like, it's a performance. Yeah. Like you came to watch like the players dance around, and then like at the end, like they all like high five and they do it, and someone gets a POM interview. You're actually coming to watch players compete. You're watching a Coma try to figure out how to get to a higher ceiling with this roster. Like, that's what he's doing. That was another weird part of this. Was T1 told us you can say they're trying to get more data, and then they told the Korean side, wait for Coma's announcement, and then Coma was like, we're trying to get more data, and I was like, what? I thought he was going to say more, because we already said that, and then the fans were confused because they watched us say that on the cast, and then they were like, I can't wait to hear what Coma says, and then he just said the same thing that T1 told us that they were doing, which makes sense to get more data, but I feel like people were a little bit annoyed by that, and that's fair. I don't think T1 did a good job with handling the PR with this, but they don't have to, because they can make any reason for this substitution to internally to figure out what their roster's gonna look like, and that can be a secret, and you don't actually deserve to know. Now, if they like keep doing weird stuff and like insulting the fans and stuff, then like you can get mad and you can deserve. But like 1 week of using a different AD carry. How many teams do that? How many teams did that already? Like Smash and Guma. We had hype. We had hype obviously in Bull. We had Punyan come in this week.
Mm-hmm.
You're not more important than other teams' fans. Like every team makes these tough calls sometimes. Bulldog is an iconic part of the DFN roster.
Yep.
And or D and F roster. He's an iconic part of the Freaks, right? Like since he joined, he's been a core part of what that roster is built around. Is he a world championship? No. Is he as popular as Gumayusi? No. But teams make these decisions. I'm sure there were a lot of disappointed Bulldog fans, but they didn't go crazy and send trucks and
Yeah, well, they're just not rich enough. They're not rich enough. That's the thing.
The casters and etc. So like I'm just saying, and they're not even. It's not even expensive to buy one of those trucks. By the way, I hear people say this on the internet all the time. Like about 75 T1 fans got together and they all pitched in like $15 each and bought a truck. No, it's like $350 USD or even less current exchange rates to get one of those trucks. Like it's not. Like, yes, you could have some people like pitch in because no one wants to drop $350 to get one of these tiny trucks on their own, and you have big fan groups. So yes, people can get together. But I see people acting like it's like this was like a $7,000 buy. They all pitched in, man. They all pulled out their piggy banks and smashed them. It's a pretty cheap thing.
Smashed them. I see what you did there. All right. Well,
we're gonna be on FM Korea for this, but I hope it's in the good way, guys. I don't know. I hope it's in a good way because I think this is good for Smash. He played well. He handled the pressure well. T1 are trying to reach a higher ceiling. Guma's not gone forever. Zeus is, but Guma's not gone forever, okay? And like, just hang in there because he'll probably be back with a cooler performance, like he said. And
a cool guy performance. Put the hands in the pocket, look to the side. Don't even.
You have to. What's the phrase? Like you have to break some eggs to make an omelet or whatever.
Yeah,
you gotta crack some eggs. You gotta put Smash in to see if it works, to see if it's viable, so you can have more, like in-depth drafts when LCK rolls around in a few weeks, right? So
yeah. And remember, this has happened throughout T1's history. Like, I got into an argument about Easy Hoon and Faker. The Easy Hoon and Faker time. I'm not sure if you saw that. It was like a fan attacked Ox. And I was like, all right, I got some righteous fury now. I got to protect my boy. He doesn't need protection, but I'm going in. And we went back and forth, and he was like, wow, like, remember when Easy Hoon and Faker were both rookies at the time when they were sharing time? I was like, excuse me, Faker had won a world championship by the time that Easy Hoon was moving on in. So as much as I'm on the side of like, don't freak out, that is also a very, very different like situation. I feel like Guma has won multiple times, and also they weren't both rookies at the same time. Like we're getting facts misconstrued. So like, just make sure that if you're a fan of the team, trust the team. You could be disappointed in the team, but don't get mad and put your $300 together and send angry messages. The bros should get together, put $300 together to be like Giga Chad, and we'll just put a face of the Giga Chad outside, and we can
put some ASCII art on it. Yeah.
Positive truck, Lowell Park. Well, we had a lot of fans this past weekend want their voice to be heard by sending trucks, and if you want to do better hearing while you're gaming, well, we here at Monte Wolf Show got you covered. I knew you would like that one. Thanks to our friends over at Turtle Beach. That's right. Winter has arrived, but don't panic. It's not a bad thing. It's just an excuse to cancel all your plans, slap on your Turtle Beach headset, and game until the sun finally decides to come back. For a marathon winter gaming session, you want the world's most comfortable headset with superhuman hearing technology. It's the new Gen 3 Stealth 700 headset by Turtle Beach. It picks up so much crystal clear sound, it's basically cheating. Even the snowblowers outside will not prevent you from hearing every footstep, every reload, and every enemy sneaking into you like they're stomping through your living room, tap dancing with their shoes. And the Turtle Beach headset are so freaking comfortable you can feel like you're wearing a marshmallow pillow sitting on your head. That's right, that's what they do. They sit on your head. Best of all, the 700 has the industry's first ever cross-play dual wireless transmitter, which is what you can use to seamlessly switch between your console and PC with just a click of a button, and it gets even better while being connected to your console. It can also connect to your phone for music streaming, taking calls, all at the same time. So for our friends here, you can get 10% off your entire order using the code Monte Wolf at turtlebeach.com. Head on over to turtlebeach.com and use Monte Wolf to get 10% off your entire order. Thanks to our friends over at Turtle Beach. Make sure you use the code Monte Wolf for 10% off your entire order. Thank you to Turtle Beach. All right.
Add music to anything you're doing that, you're connected to your gaming, but you have music coming from a different source. Just link it all together. It breaks the rules of Bluetooth, basically. You're like, oh, I think I can't do these two things at the same time. That's how it always works. I try to switch it and then I lose one sound. No, just make it happen with the headset. It's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the next thing.
Wait, real quick. I got
drama.
One more. Not drama, just shout outs to Owner, who's just playing really well. He's playing really well. Okay, that's all. I needed to throw that out there because we talked a lot of drama, talked a lot of bad stuff. Like, there's other parts of this T1 roster that are doing well. How's Doran doing? Like, Doran's doing okay. He's doing his job. He did a couple of Dorans, but the story and the focus was definitely on Smash. And
I mean, T1 have had some recently weaker opponents, right? And so that's why the GenG match on Saturday is really exciting. There is a Lunar New Year break, by the way, if you're watching this. So games don't happen until Friday. So right now at the time of recording, it's Monday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for us. Then the games happen again on Friday. So just be aware of that. But on Saturday, T1 play against GenG. And even if they lose, which they might not necessarily lose, I think at this moment, I haven't officially predicted, but like at this moment in time, I'm probably going to predict T1 because GenG has looked a little rocky. But even if they lose, it's like, cool, well, that was your toughest opponent that you've tried this roster swap. Or even if they're swapping Guma back in, it's like, well, Guma's a little, he hasn't played for a few times. It's a swap in its own right. It's okay to lose that one. I think people are not necessarily honed into the fact that Doran has gelled with this roster relatively quickly. It's not perfect. Like you mentioned, Owner is looking fantastic. This is not like the summer mid-season collapse that we've seen from T1 a few times where Faker's form drops off a cliff and we're like, oh my god, is T1 bad? Question mark. No, T1 is really good, and they have a new AD carry who's also great, and they have a more strategical depth now. So I think the future is looking good, and it's the first time in years that T1 has had a different identity roster-wise than it had since, Zeus locked into this roster and they decided on Owner and the Danny 10-man swaps and all that stopped. And that's cool. Like, that's exciting. It's a new roster. Like, it's about time this team figures out how to do something else. And I'm here for it.
Yeah.
All right, that's my end of my thoughts.
Yeah. FM Korea, please clip that part. Okay. Well, you brought up their competition for next week. They're the power ranking world number probably at lowest 3 going into last week, if not number 1. GenG, the indomitable GenG, the best team in the world, 2025 world favorites, who just got absolutely dominated by the bros. That's right. Hold on.
He's always like this.
Whoa!
This is what he's like at work.
Whenever they play, whenever they play, I lose my voice, and I've got to be careful. But Wolf, was that the biggest upset? Like obviously not in terms of impact, but like foregone conclusion matches, that has to be one of the biggest upsets because the pros looked so bad in week 1.
Yeah, they
especially
did.
in their second series. And GenG looked so good in their first game against Hanwha Life Esports, and then they looked good enough in their second series. And then I don't know what happened to Canyon and Chovy.
Well, Canyon and Chovy are underperforming, I would say, at the moment. And then you have a team that is disrespecting their opponents. Like it's very clear to me that GenG is kind of ranking opposition and being like, we focus on this one. This one's not important, and that happens. That's why people call these types of games a trap game, because you're like, oh, okay, I'm working on the other one, and this one's not important to me, and then you get caught, right? You get caught by the team that actually it is important to them. Bros are like, we're in pretty good form right now. Maybe we could beat GenG. They're practicing like crazy for this. They're really dialed in. They're watching your pathing and stuff, some of your tendencies in lane, and they're ready to win. And you're like, oh, that's a free win. And then you show up and actually it's a free loss because you didn't prepare as hard. I think there's definitely some of that going on. It seems to be that there's some elements of like ego gaming going on in terms of like, for example, Ruler teleporting into lost team fights after dying with his Otacon buff and stuff like that we've seen
Yep.
in the series against BNK. And then like he is apologizing, like you see like the comms, the win comms, and he's like apologizing and stuff because he knows he goofed. But I think there's just an attitude in this team of like, we are the best, we win by default in this one. I don't think it's Coach Kim's attitude, because I've seen this guy coach for years and years, and he's probably like, guys, we planned, we worked on this, you know. He's probably like looking at this face palming. But I think GenG got a little bit of a reality check with Bro. Bro also have an incredible early game, and their aggressive tendencies and their coordination all work together really well in the first like 15 minutes of the game. When we go past that, you know, sometimes they're not quite able to figure out what to do. As see the Bro KT series.
Please don't see that. That was a train wreck. You were very upset that series took as long as it did. Going back to GenG and that attitude, which I agree with, this we are superior, and you know, like even the Bro game, as much as you call it a trap game, that didn't feel like a trap game because Bro, it felt like a foregone conclusion. But that I agree that they have the attitude of like this, you know, we are the best team in the world and we are better than you, and that's why the Bro series is more about Bro and less about GenG. I think that's the attitude that they need to beat those top teams. Like that is something that Ruler brings, and you could hear it in their series against the DN Freaks, where Ruler was about to get a penta and Chovy gets it, seals it away, and then Canyon was about to get a kill down bot and Duro takes the kill. They're not laughing and like joking with each other like that these things happened. It's just silent. It is. Ruler got kind of upset.
Ruler got sounded pretty pissed.
Yeah. And that's cool. Like, I want that attitude when you're playing for LCK titles, when you're playing against BLG top esports at Worlds. Like, that's the attitude that you need. And it feels like they didn't have that with Pays, who was more reserved, Lehens, who was more jokey. Like, this team possibly could be tilt prone, but they could also just destroy teams so methodically because that's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, I want to say I don't have the comms up in front of me right now, but when that pentakill was stolen, he said like, "Yeah, no 진짜 죽을래?" Like,
yeah, he hit him with
I'm pretty sure he said, I'm pretty sure he used the informal Korean for this as well. Which, like, I don't know what his relationship with Chovy is. They played together in the past, and like they know each other for a really long time. So like that's not the weird part. But he basically said like, "Yo, you want to die? You seriously want to die?" Is like what it translates to. But that's the kind of thing like that like your girlfriend would say to you if like if you took like the last like thing, like she cooked something for herself or something, and then you came and just ate it out of the refrigerator, like you ate her leftovers or something, but she's like really mad about it, like, you know, like she's like, you took this thing, like you want to die, like it's somewhat playful, but it's also like very mad, you know what I mean? It's like the most playful way of being like, you fucking serious? Like, are you serious? And and like, I don't know, I just thought that whole interaction was so funny because Chovy like, legitimately, I don't think was trying to steal his penta, and he was like, I thought Lee Sin got a kill, and then he kept apologizing, and it's so funny, but like Ruler was legitimately like, are you fucking real right now? Like, you actually just, it was the freest penta and you took it for no reason. kind of thing. Like there's definitely an element of, okay, he was mad, but also this is how this team is thinking right now.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
and I think the synergy isn't fully there yet, and Duro definitely looks like he's in the when like you're the new guy in the office and you have to like bring coffee to everybody, especially in Korea. This is a thing. Like you're the one who has to buy coffee for everybody. You think about what you've seen in an anime where the new person is like bowing heavily like all the time. And you may have seen it in a K-drama if you guys watch K-dramas, and you're using like really very high like high level words when you're referring to everyone. And it's not even like the senpai meme. You're like actually like, don't mess this up. This is my chance. Like I need to get respect from these people. Like you can see that's what Duro looks like whenever you see him on comms and you see him walking around with his team. He's just like, I am the luckiest man alive. I'm playing with legends and I can't screw this up. And there's some funny like takeaways you can have from that. But I do think this roster, once they like fully figure out how to play around each other, and once they're like really preparing for strong teams, they will be great. I really truly believe that. I mean, you could see what they look like when they really did prepare for teams like Hanwha Life and just made them look like they're not even on the same tier as them.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the groups, like one of the falling off points for me for this format, after we've kind of had some experience with it, is one group was obviously stronger. You couldn't have known that when you drafted the groups.
Yeah,
that
of course.
DRX would also be this good. With a sub, like how could you know? Or that Dplus would be the only undefeated person in the group. Like how could you know that?
Too.
But like GenG has beaten Hanwha Life, who are still figuring things out. Let's say they prepared really hard for that series. Obviously, DN Freaks, a team that we didn't have high expectations for. BNK, a team we really didn't have high expectations for. GenG almost lost a game to them, but ultimately won that one 2-0. And the only team they have left is T1. They lost to Bro, who they didn't prepare well. We already discussed that, right? So like that was a bit of a trap. But like they only have T1 left. I think when we get into that match, that'll be a really exciting match. First of all, I think I'm probably leaning towards predicting T1 at the moment. But once you get into that match and then we go into playoffs, etc., that's when things get really interesting, and that's when GenG like really has to turn it up, and I think they will. Because otherwise right now this is almost like a for fun group stage for the teams in Elder, because they're like not really in danger at all, and it's the beginning of the year and it's new rosters, and you lose to Bro, it's like, well, that's a little bit embarrassing, but like let's learn from it. It's not actually the end of the world. So that's my full take on it.
The only I guess if we're going like the group format stuff, the only concern I have is if somehow the DN Freaks, can that happen? They'll be at 2-1. No, it can't happen. I was gonna say the DN Freaks and Brion surpass Hanwha Life. Let's say Hanwha Life dropped their last game, they get 0-2'd, and then the DN Freaks 2-0. T1 and Hanwha could play in the first round of the tournament, because the bottom two teams, this is what I was told, the bottom two teams from the winning group have the bye. They get the bye seed. And so we could see Nongshim Red Force in and like T1 and Hanwha Life out because they like play each other in the first round or something like that. That could happen, which is crazy stupid. But, that's part of, drafting poorly, I guess. So
I mean, looking at the bracket, I think that is, if I'm not mistaken, I think that is technically possible, which would be really funny.
Yeah, it is a thing. Like, so if we're on the group Baron side, it's T1, Hanwha Life Esports, Bro, and the Freaks. One of that group plays 4, 2 plays 3. If for some reason, like T1, no, T1's the number 1 seed no matter what.
I personally, I think we should talk more about this when we get to the bracket itself. But yeah. I personally think I keep calling it Kespa Cup, by the way, which is so funny. I've been like doing this on broadcast. Like I've gotten like people tweeting at me. I've had like the other casters be like, by the way, you keep calling it Kespa Cup, because like there's been this tournament that happens pre LCK called Kespa Cup for like many years. It's got a different format than LCK, so like it just took the name. And I will say I think LCK Cup will have a very different identity in the future. Like this format feels like a trial format to me. To me, I think a lot of people like the concept of it and they think it's still working. I'm looking at the way that the groups shook out and everything that's happening. I'm like, I think this tournament format will be adjusted. I'm not going to say it was a complete failure, but I think it will be adjusted. I think with First Stand kind of being announced fairly late and everyone trying to figure out their planning, my theory is that like every region was like, how do we implement Fearless? How do we do this first season? Like, what are we going to do? And LCK is also like, yeah, we are changing our whole format this year as well. And then they kind of had to put something together to fit into the First Stand, which they're hosting as well, and make this format like last minute. LCK Cup doesn't even have a logo, which is weird. You know what I mean? Like I think it will be a tournament that we keep.
Let it go. It doesn't need a logo.
It needs a logo. How could it not have a logo? People are so confused about what's happening. It needs a logo. They didn't even say that the stats weren't going to count at first, and then later they're like they don't count, and then people are confused and upset, and like Lazy feels the first player to play in the LCK, except not really. But it has the same logo as the LCK for some reason. It needs its identity to be like a little bit boosted. I think I'm not even blaming anyone at Riot Korea or LCK or Riot HQ or anything like that. I think like this is fine for this year, but next year let's make some changes. Let's make this format better and let's get a logo, please. And Wolf, make it clear.
Wolf showed me if you guys at home take the logo of MSI and superimpose it on top of the logo for First Stand, or like the little text in the middle, there's like a little sword. It's the same sword as MSI.
Well, yeah, like, that's
no one noticed. It's like Garen's sword.
I'm a big logo guy. I'm a big branding guy. I'm all about ambience and esports. The draft music has to be right. You know what I mean? Like these are the small things that people used to spam in Twitch chat, like KR production, and like that's like the small things that Korean production in esports has always gotten right. And then people like are hyped about this tournament. They want to see the highest level play, right? They want to see the best players, etc. But like while they're doing it, stay up at 4:00 in the morning to watch it. They're like, "Damn, this is cool," you know. And so like we got to get the KR production stuff right. And that the fact that LCK Cup doesn't have a logo is a big miss for me. I think it's a big missed opportunity. But if it's going to be a tournament we have every year, you know, maybe they want to think about it more and figure out what it means and how the fans react to it, and if they think it's different from LCK or not, or if they think it should be more attached to LCK, because there's still some movement, right, about what we can do with this tournament. So,
bro, this is like the first time that they're doing a different format, a different structure since like, was it like Masters, right?
Well, I mean, after Masters, which was killed, they had to move to the league or the round robin league format, right? Because before. All Champions was a tournament format with like GSL groups.
Pre-split GSL, baby. Yeah. With open qualifiers for the non-top teams. That's why you had the T1K versus the T1S? Where's the T? SKT.
It was S, I'm pretty sure.
SKT.
Now you're reaching back SKT. Into before I was casting League, but
I know.
When I was following it tangentially as like, oh, these same teams are in the StarCraft tournament that I'm casting. But yeah, I think it was S and K.
Well, you know what makes the LCK great? Those small details, the way that it looks, the way that the music sounds, and the way that it smells. It smells great. And you know what else smells great? Our friends over at Mando, which we can hook you up as well. There's one thing that I love about Mando. It's that it's a whole body deodorant, safe to use everywhere and anywhere on my body. Pits, balls, thigh folds, belly buttons, butt cracks, and feet. That's right. It was created by a doctor who saw firsthand how BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated and clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor up to 72 hours. You've got multiple different product options, whether it's the solid deodorant stick, the spray deodorant. I have the bar over in my shower, and it is one of the ones that I use. It is great to control all your odor needs. After there was a study done, after 12 hours after the shower, an average man grundle odor was a 5 out of 10. But Wolf and I, we are no average man. We're a Mando man, which also says the average grundle after Mando is a 0 out of 10 in terms of odor. So if you want to try America's #1 whole body deodorant right now, you can check them out at Walmart, Target, and other retailers across the country. But specifically for our friends here on Monte Wolf Show, we've got the starter pack here by Mando. It comes with a solid state deodorant, cream tube deodorant, and 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes with free shipping. And as a special offer for our listeners, new customers get 5% off a starter pack with our exclusive code Monte Wolf. That equates to over 40% of your starter pack using the code Monte Wolf at shopmando.com.
That's the starter pack. I was just going to say, I don't mean to cut off your code, but the starter pack also has like everything that you need, where you're like, most people are used to just using stick deodorant, okay, and you're like, that's it. But once you have the starter pack, you're like, okay, now I can clean all of the body parts that dGon mentioned before. You know that moment as a man where you're like, you like touch some part of your body, then you sniff your hand, and you're like, whoa, we have you covered now, okay? You never have to sniff your hand and go, oh man, no, not anymore. You sniff your hand and you go, oh, nice.
That's right. And you can do that by heading on over to shopmando.com. Support the show by using the code Monte Wolf and get yourself that starter pack. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. All right. We're kind of zigzagging all over the place. That's my bad. Wolf, we went from GenG Bro to Format to Masters to Grundle, and now we're gonna go to someone looks like no, I don't want to say that. I was about to get canceled. Someone who looks like they smell really good. There we go. That's what I was gonna say. Zeka and the rest of Honolulu Esports.
Well,
they bounce back after their loss.
Right now,
what?
Right now, like, Showmaker's looking a little cleaner. Because I want to talk about Showmaker versus Zeka, because Showmaker kind of crushed him. Like, when Zeka is playing a champion he's not familiar with, right? In the past, you're like, oh, okay, his Azir is fine, but it's not great. His old Corki, remember before Corki was reworked, it was still a package. You're like, oh god, like, oh, Zeka, like, this is really not his archetype, you know what I mean? It's like watching a white mage wield a great sword. You're like, oh god, he can't lift it. Like, oh no. Well,
I was gonna go with like baby's first steps, but sure, white mage suit wielding a sword. Sure,
I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy 11 recently, but anyway, I think I think this is not like Zeka playing badly necessarily, but it's like Showmaker was playing so well. His Yone was out of control, and Zeka's improved a lot as a player. Like, that was the other point I was going to make, is that his archetypes are like multifaceted now. Like, he's no longer just the melee mid guy, and he can play AD Corki mid at least. Hopefully for his sake it doesn't get reworked back to poke AP Corki. And I think Hanwha Life as a team has been pretty, like, I'm trying not to get canceled either, dGon, but like, kind of boring this season so far. I don't know how to explain it, because everybody has this feeling of like, it's kind of a buzzkill. You were like, oh, they got Zeus and they kept Viper and Zeka's good now and Peanut's like one of the best junglers and Delight is so sick on Engage. Like, I'm ready for this team to dumpster everybody. And they've just been kind of like, maybe like quietly like the third or fourth best team, it feels like in some ways. And you're like, wait a minute. Like, I was promised the super team. Like, they got Zeus, And so I think a lot of people are looking at Hanwha right now going, well, we'll still be the best, right? Like, it's kind of messing around right now, right? Like, it's it's gonna get better, right? Like, it's fine. Like, we're not panicking yet, okay? Because Hanwha has historically, when they make small changes to their roster, have a rough like first round robin in spring. This is kind of like that. Obviously, it's not a full round robin and it's not LCK, but it's the beginning of the year and there's still some synergy that needs to be built. I think they're gonna bounce back, but they did get outclassed by Dplus, and Dplus might be the best team in the tournament right now. So like that's not like any shade on Hanwha.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people are upset we didn't talk about Hanwha that much last week. And I did want to discuss them this week. And nothing has really changed that much for me in terms of how I'm looking at this roster right now. They just don't look as clean as we expected.
Yeah, because they are boring. You hit it on the head, and it couldn't be more stark than when they played Dplus, because Dplus, they're cooking. Look at these drafts. Maokai support, Beryl. He'll play anything. Kog'Maw at the bot lane position for aiming. That's, cooking. And then I guess they played Kindred. They pulled out Kindred for Lucid. Like, they've got multiple chefs. It's not just Showmaker chefing anymore with his Champion Ocean. Everyone's like, I can do this too. Aiming, pulling out the zigs, and building it correctly to the point where Dan had to say nice things. That was kind of crazy. On the opposite side, it's Zeus. Oh, let's see Zeus champs. Oh, Tank Jace. Okay. Zeus. Okay. Kind of this, bruiser Gnar. Okay. Oh, and then Cassante. All right. Like, it's not exciting. I will say that I think the person that's getting stretched the most on Hanwha Life is Peanut, because Viper's KDA is fine. He's dishing out damage. He only died twice that whole series, but it's really like Peanut's getting pulled in multiple different directions, and now there's more onus on Delight to kind of set up and make the play, because you've lost that player in Doran who would soak the he would create the space so that the playmakers can make the play. But now I feel like they're trying to figure out who does that in each comp every time, whereas before it was always designated to Doran, except maybe when he was on Jax, where maybe he would get the space for the first like 20 minutes, and then afterwards he gets to like do his split pushing Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Zeus is a problem on this team or anything like that. It's not like he's playing poorly, but he's not what Doran is, and I think there's still some growing pains in figuring that out, because they are just leaving him like he's Doran, and Zeus can do that, but he's not as good at it as Doran, in my opinion, of like just absorbing pressure and being the weak side guy. He was more of the, I'm going to get every inch out of this matchup and get super far ahead kind of guy. And he was multifaceted in that he could play weak side too, like very well. But that was kind of like the one thing Doran was better at than Zeus. That's why oftentimes Doran, as we joked, was Zeus' father, like in the matchup, because like Zeus is like, I'm getting every inch, and Doran's like, you don't do that against me. Like, I'm the guy who doesn't let you get inches. I'm the guy who actually is somewhat undiveable and great at weak side. Like, he was almost like the antithesis to Zeus. So when you see these two players trade between these rosters, it's so interesting to see the impact it makes on the team. T1 forcing Doran out of his comfort zone, making him like play Jax Engage all the time and stuff, is really interesting, because like, we know he can do it, but like, he wasn't put in that position all too often. It was more of the side lane Jax, but like Tank Jace, he's done a lot. Zeus on the Gnar, kind of like absorbing pressure and trying to deny like dives and stuff, has been fun to watch too. Instead of like it's Gnar trying to get a solo kill and getting turret plates and stuff in a counter matchup like we see it from Zeus in the past with his Gnar. I think Viper has been so stable on this roster so far that no matter what, like, they are going to be okay. Like, if everyone falls off a cliff, Viper won't, and like he's good enough that if you just put like 4 warm champions in front of him, like he will position well and do the damage. But I think this team hasn't really shown what it's capable of yet. I still think this team might end up winning like not LCK Spring, but like winning the MSI spot, like the top spot, through the road to MSI. Like I think they might be the best team when we hit the halfway point of the year, just because this roster is capable of so much, and already some of it's being hit, and I think Zeka will bounce back. I don't think he's having a really bad time. But like he's getting outclassed by Showmaker. Showmaker looks good though. It's not like Zeka is bad, so he lost to Showmaker, which is what you would say in Showmaker's low points. But on a Showmaker high point, you're like, wow, Showmaker's dunking on Zeka. That's crazy in a good way for Showmaker. So my takeaway from this series is Dplus is great. They beat another really strong team. And Hanwha Life are still figuring it out, but they, were close to one game off of beating Dplus. Like it wasn't like they got completely obliterated. It was a pretty one-sided series in the wins for Dplus, but like Hanwha will come back, Hanwha fans, and they made it back on the second episode of this year of the Monte Wolf Show. They were a slow starter in episode 1. They're here in episode 2. And maybe after their match next week, we'll be like really back on Monte Wolf. They'll be at the front. They're playing against DRX, so probably not. But we'll see them in playoffs.
Yeah, I feel like the only way they're at the front is if they end up losing here to DRX. That would be bad.
That's probably not it.
In that series, just to final thoughts there, it did feel like the wins for Dplus were very one-sided, and the win for Hanwha Life was a late game catch, which, I think it just, as what you said, bodes well to Dplus just being so dominant. And if you haven't seen our segment on trust issues with Dplus, go watch the post game of the Hanwha Life Dplus series. I made Wolf and Chronicler do improv where Wolf is the doctor, the therapist, listening to his crazy patient, Chronicler, who is a Dplus fan who has trust issues, trusting this team being good. But they are good. It is looking good. And I think we can trust them. The glory days might be right around the corner. I think that's the exciting part about this season with LCK. We've had, the bro upset, which is good. We have the surprise DRX, which is great. I don't want to say that I didn't believe it, but you just never know. Berserkers come into DN Freaks and given them like a solid 80 carry performance, and every time you watch him, you're like, damn, this guy's kind of elo held. So like every team has a puncher's chance, except maybe Nongshim and BFX. Oh no, BFX, but except Nongshim. And and now we've got like more parity at the top as well. So it is an exciting time to be LCK fan. We've got two more things. I wanted to touch on the team I just brought up who's playing Hanwha Life next week, DRX. They've been good, man. Both through Lazy Field, looking like he's a little bit more comfortable. He's taken a lot of the headlines, Wolf, but I think it's actually Yukao. Yukao got himself a player of the match this week, and he's been like solid after some time over at the LPL, looking kind of like floating away. Rich hasn't looked great, but the other parts have looked pretty good.
DRX right now for me is one of those like, how do I put this?
How do you put this?
Like, when you watch one of those like sports movies,
yeah, I love
where like, it's almost like a Mighty Ducks or like
Mighty Ducks. Yeah.
I've actually never seen Mighty Ducks, but like I'm familiar with the concept. Like I'm trying to think of what sports movies I have seen. Like I'm talking about like
this is my alley. You had me, and
right,
now you don't know any sports.
Like, from sports movies where like it's high school.
Remember the Titans.
Remember the Titans is a good one. But like there's an arc, right? Where
Friday Night Lights.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. there's an arc where you're like, okay, there's some struggles, there's some challenges that need to be overcome. Teddy is sick. He's in the hospital. He's like our veteran 80 carry. But all we have is a Vietnamese player. Like, you know, we got to call up. And he doesn't even speak Korean. And it's like, oh no, like, what are we going to do? And the coach is like, and somebody's like, how about we get Lazy Phil? And everyone's like, no. And he's like, no, trust him. He speaks a little. And like, Lazy Phil's like, annyeonghaseyo. And they're like, we can make this work. And then
and then there's the little flute.
Yeah.
And then it's like the training arc.
Yeah, so there's a training arc, and like it's like him like trying to eat like kimchi and stuff, and then
he like drops his chopsticks. I mean, I'm sure they use chopsticks in Vietnam.
There's like a scene. There's like a scene in practice where everyone's like "bay bay 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 bay," which means like get out, and he just doesn't get out, and he dies, and they like teach him like that means get the fuck out when I say get out, and he's like I'm sorry, I don't speak Korean that well. Anyway. I feel like we're in the arc where before we get to like the last like act 3 where it's like there's another hardship. We're in the Titans eat free like arc right now. We're like the newspaper's like spinning through like DRX 3-game winning streak. Like, is this team back? Like, could it be like 2022? Like the newspaper.
Boy Wonder
and then the montage.
JT Ucal.
It's like, is this going to actually be the first foreigner to play in the LCK? Because he played in LCK Cup and they said it didn't count, but maybe he'll be the first one to play in LCK too.
Teddy's return looms. Uh-oh, here comes the conflict. Yeah.
But like, yeah, we're like in the arc right now with DRX where you're like, I think real analysts know, like, okay, the happy times are ending soon, but like it's been very cool. Like they've been able to accomplish a lot with a roster that we didn't expect to do well. And Ucal, like he won on Lee Sin. The fan is like, holy shit, Ucal won on Lee Sin. It was so sick. The analyst is like, that was not a good draft. That was a little bit weird. And he did win, but like I don't want to see it again. But like it's cool that he won on Lee Sin. Like hell yeah. Like it's like the newspaper is flying through like, you know, Ucal comes back to Korea, wins on Lee Sin mid. Is DRX back? You know, that's kind of like I feel like where we're at right now. But there will be the challenge when we hit playoffs. It's going to be like, oh, okay, this team is in the Elder group, and they had to play against Baron teams, which aren't as strong, and got some upset wins. And let's see what happens when we actually play against the real big guys. Let's see what happens when they play against the Elder teams. Let's see what happens then, because while I am excited for Lazyfield, and I think he has had incredible performances despite being massively behind in lane. Individually has been very aggressive, has found some really nice angles. Ucal has been very consistent, and like they're winning despite Rich getting destroyed in a side lane or like getting dove repeatedly.
Rich has done some dumb shit. Like, like he is. I love my North American guys. It was great interviewing him. He's a very coy boy, but like he is the worst player on a winning team, like with a winning record right now. Like if you just look down, it's T1, DRX, GenG, and Dplus. Like Rich is like, he's done really poorly. And if you just look at his face cams in those moments, he knows. He knows.
The thing is, like, I list all the things that DRX have done. I'm like, so you're saying they won with a Vietnamese 80 carry player doesn't speak Korean that well, while Rich was 0-3 and down like 1,000 gold, while also Ucal was playing Lee Sin mid, and they still did win. Yes, I'm like, is that what you're telling me? You're like, yeah, well, that's what I'm telling you. I'm like, well, that's fucking impressive. Like, nice. But then I'm like, hold on, let me look that up. And I'm like, well, you only beat Bro, DNF, and BNK.
BNK Fear X.
You did get bopped by T1.
They did.
And hold up, like, wait a minute, like, did we beat anybody real yet? Bro is real sometimes. They were not real on day one when they were playing in that first matchup.
I mean, that was a fun series to watch, actually.
Yeah, it was a good start to the tournament. And now you have to play against Hanwha. Now, if DRX beat Hanwha legit,
I wouldn't know what to think.
Hanwha, to be honest. But yeah, like, I don't know. But like it'll be a good sign, let's say. But I think there's going to be little bit of a reality check for some people. I think most people are very aware that this team has kind of memed their way into success in this group so far. But like, I've been talking to Can Yang, obviously from DRX. He was the Vision Strikers guy and joined in the DRX
Name drop.
now.
There it is. Name drop. Every time Wolf does a name drop or does the insider, I want to let you guys know that this is the Wolf insider and the Wolf difference that you get here on Monte Wolf. Go ahead, Wolf.
But Can Yang and I have been close since when I was basically a baby in Korea. I met him when I was like 21. So he and I have been close friends for a really long time. But he is sharing like just how hyped DRX is as an org. Their expectations for this roster and with the emergency sub of LazyFeel, like they were measured expectations, right? And they've kind of like rocketed over them. So I think DRX as an org is just like, wow, like we have a budget roster and we're kind of nailing it. And now we have all this free press because we got the first foreigner to play in this arena in LazyFeel, and everything is looking great. Everything is looking up. Because LazyFeel was this guy that they were holding as this prospect, like maybe we'll use him eventually, we're not sure.
17,
like DRX,
bro. He's 17.
DRX this year are, they've decided as an org, this is basically a budget LCK roster. Like I don't even have to have insider information to tell you guys that. Like you can look at it and you're like, okay, maybe next year they spend big money or something like that, depending on what funding they can get, etc. But like LazyFeel is kind of like this prospect where they're like, I'm not sure if he's going to make it. We're not sure if we're going to use him this year because we have Teddy. We'll wait and see. If Teddy performs well, then we hold on to him. But then maybe like LazyFeel doesn't get a chance next year either because we actually spend money. And like if we don't keep Teddy, then we get somebody else who's good, right? So LazyFeel might not have ever happened unless Teddy got sick. And like Teddy's sick and it's like, oh god, this is a really bad situation. I hope LazyFeel will be okay. And like he's struggled in lane, but his team fights have been great. And now LazyFeel is like a super, like not a superhero, but he's positioned like a superhero. Like he's gotten a lot of acclaim early. He's become a fan favorite, let's say. And so now he's got this cool career opportunity. It's just like it is a sports movie, man. It's like there's no rule that says a dog can't play basketball, Like, it's one of those silly sports movies, but it's so fun, and I'm here for it, man. Like,
yeah,
kids are gonna love this, okay? Like, and I'm happy about it, but I do think the reality check is coming, and I don't think this is gonna last forever. And Teddy will be back, and the team will change, and we'll see what their ceiling is then.
Yeah, definitely just the feel good, one of the feel good stories, but the feel good story so far of the LCK season. A lot of fun there. And then again, shout outs to Coach Song. Coach Song always shows up with the team that no one believes in him, but whenever he gets put with the team that has a lot of hype around it, that's usually when they struggle. Back to the TSM days, and then FlyQuest Super Team last year over at Dplus as an assistant. But DRX, this is where he's made his name, and so great job by DRX to get to this point. All right, one more reminder for you. It is our friends over at Factor who have made staying on top of your nutrition this year super, super easy. They have chef-made gourmet meals that are making eating really easy. They're dietitian approved and ready to heat for you in 2 minutes so you can fuel right and feel great no matter what life throws at you. They are so easy to make. You literally pop it into the microwave, you put it for 2 to 3 minutes, and then out comes these delicious meals. Usually when I am dieting and eating, the toughest part for me is that when that repetition of eating the same thing over and over again becomes an issue, that's where I struggle. And that is where Factor has you covered, because they've got over 40 different options with 8 different dietary preferences on the menu each week. It's so easy to pick meals tailored to your goals, whether it's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. Wolf, what is the type of goal that you have? Are you a calorie smart guy? You calorie counter?
I am a calorie counter guy when I'm trying to lose weight. So that's where I'm going in the factor archetypes. You know, like that's where I'm a bit of a calorie counter because I also like to snack and stuff, and I need to really be aware of what I'm putting into my body. So that's my angle.
All right. Well, I'm a protein plus guy. You know, carnivore. I need to get my protein numbers in there, the macros, and that's where Factor definitely helps out because it helps you with all of the different types of nutrition goals that you are looking for. So reach your goals this year with ingredients that you can trust and convenience you just definitely can't beat. So head on over to Factor right now at factormeals.com/Monte Wolf 50 off and use the code. That's right, Monte Wolf 50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code Monte Wolf 50 off at factormeals.com/Monte Wolf 50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Thanks to our friends over at Factor for keeping us on our fitness goals. And thank you all for helping support the podcast and the network itself. All right, last look here. Let's look into week 3. Won't be too long, but just predictions here. And also on Sunday. So again, we are celebrating Lunar New Year during the week. So matches will return Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We only have 5 matches scheduled instead of 6 because there's strong potential actually for tiebreakers across the board. So if in a series, or if your series score is tied, let's say you're 3-2, 3-2, and then your game score is tied, let's say, I don't know, 8-8 or something like that. Then
whatever
you
your
have to play
plus
tiebreakers.
minus is the same. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we could have tiebreakers for Group Elder because DRX and KT are at 3, or DRX is at 3-1, but playing Hanwha Life Esports. KT is at 2-2, but playing the DN Automotive Freaks. So there's a potentiality for tiebreaker there. On the opposite side, you've got 3 teams possibly tie-breaking with Brion, the Freaks, and FearX. FearX has the chance of possibly moving up or down. So, yeah, tiebreakers abound, but here are our matches. Freaks take on KT, DRX versus Hanwha Life Esports, T1 GenG, Bro Dplus, and Nongshim BNK FearX. That is just a terrible looking Sunday. So I really hope we have tiebreakers.
Yeah, I mean, Sunday is one of those days where you're like, I just woke up, I forgot there was LCK today, and then you're like, you tune in, you're like, oh, I just caught the end of Nongshim BNK, but surely there'll be a better game coming on after this, and it's like, no, actually, that's the end for today. So yeah, yeah, be aware of that.
Make sure to stick around for the
Saturday,
post-game, of course.
Yes, of course. Never turn off the desk, man. Especially when dGon's on. But when like Valdez is filling in, it's like, it's missable, but no, I'm kidding. Saturday, 2 bangers. Okay. T1 GenG, we've been waiting for it, right? Normally we start the season with that. Riot has learned finally, LCK has learned finally that like if you put it in the middle or the end, like if we're in the old round robin, I'd like put it towards the end of the round 1 so we can actually get the good level between these teams, not the first week, the first day of like, I don't know, neither of these teams are even like half as good as they're going to be. Put it at the end, put it on Saturday, max out that viewership. That's what I'm talking about. This is it. Saturday, T1 GenG, and Bro DK. Kind of hype because Bro's the only team that beat GenG. And then they lost to KT, but like that's kind of where Bro's at. They have to be in the underdog story before they can get the upset win. Dplus looking like maybe the best team in the LCK. So whenever they're playing, it's a good day to watch. But playing against Bro, where Bro has a history of upsetting back since the Damwon Kia days, this team, and even upsetting them in order to get their playoff spot, etc., etc. Like there's a lot of storylines there. Like Saturday is a sick day to watch. So like if you're gonna miss Friday and Sunday, I won't judge you because those are some messy days. But Saturday you got to be there, okay? Friday, the DN Freaks against KT. That one I feel like could go either way. I'm gonna lean towards KT with DNF's recent performance or lack thereof. whatever. Viper versus Teddy / LazyField, we don't know. That's pretty cool. I've told you guys before, my expectation is Teddy will be back, blah blah blah, and he hasn't been back. My expectation is Teddy will be back, but like I can't promise that to you guys, so we'll see. But that matchup either way should be pretty interesting. But I think we have a pretty clear favorite in Hanwha, right? So, and this is like the reality check I was talking about with DRX, where I'm like, okay, like it's been cool, but you know, we're going into the Act 3 conflict, which is Hanwha smashes you, and what does it mean?
I hope that LazyField doesn't come back. I mean, Teddy doesn't come back. Just leave him. Leave him in for this, and then you can prep the team for the next round. However, it has been two weeks of the flu for Teddy, and in the hospital, which generally helps you get the fluids in faster. So I think you're right, but the feel good story, he needs to fail. You need, if you're going to make this change, like let it be of him and the team's own volition, not like, okay, Teddy's back and then they lose, and then it feels bad. Then I think it actually feels bad that like, oh, now we lost because we put Teddy in. Like I don't.
Teddy obviously hasn't been practicing that much because he's been in the hospital with like an IV in his arm, and he hasn't been able to. You know, Teddy's not with like a keyboard in his lap in the hospital bed, like training. You know what I mean? I know people have like a fantasy of that, but in truth, like he's not in full form right now. And as we've seen from Teddy when he took a break and then came back, like it takes him a little while to come online, as most pros do. Like even with Deed, when he's like watching players and yelling at the TV, being like, I could do better than that. He's like, if I had like at least like a week and a half of practice. Like,
he said 2 weeks. I need 2 weeks.
Because it just takes time to get back into form. And so I think I would agree. I would like to see LazyField play against Honda Life Esports and then allow Teddy to get ready for playoffs. But we'll see what they do. My expectation is Teddy will be playing. Either way, that matchup is definitely more interesting than the DNF KT one. Saturday is banger. Sunday, hope for a tiebreaker.
Yeah. Tiebreakers could be Bro versus DNF versus BFX, which all kind of sounds soupy. On the other side, it would be DRX and Nongshim? No, DRX KT. That's the other potential tiebreaker. Or if something very weird happens, DRX and I think Hanwha is like the other weird one that could happen. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, those are the matches. Who you got for Nongshim BFX? BNK FearX?
Probably gonna go with BNK. I think Nongshim have really not been inspiring as of late. I don't know. I think Fisher. I don't know. I feel like Fisher is a very known quantity for me now. There have been so many mid laners that people have promised me are going to be good. Karis, like, number 1 on the list, by the way. Like, okay. Oh, don't worry, man. He's actually so sick. I'm awaiting. Like, I don't think he's suddenly going to be good. He's good enough to be in an LCK team, but I think BNK win. I think we're going to have a more interesting situation with the bottom of the standings.
All right, let me check. I was like, where's our boy Yehu? Saytab Yehu, because we know that Saytab went to LPL. Yehu is back in challengers for DRX, so not his time yet. Let's just go by UCal, and that's worked out really well for DRX. All right, that has been our show. That was longer than what I thought it was going to be, but I hope that you all enjoyed.
Thanks, Trucks.
Yeah, thanks, Trucks. Have a wonderful Lunar New Year for those of you that celebrate. Wolf, what are you doing for Lunar New Year?
I am going to visit my wife's family, not today, but tomorrow. And we're going to eat some traditional Korean food. And I just want to say, final thought, even if you are the ones who sent the trucks and the crazy tweets and attacked my colleagues, I hope you have a happy Lunar New Year.
Wow, look at Wolf.
Happy Lunar New Year, even to those who incite hatred during the LCK Cup. No, I mean, I don't know. Just, come on. My final thoughts on that is just really like, you know, how they say keep on trucking. Maybe don't do that in this case. Have a happy New Year.
Yeah. All right. My final thought is, bros, it's only $200 to $300. We can do it. All right. We'll see you guys next week for more Monte Wolf. See ya.